Hey YouTubers, this is Camoprepper here. Today I'm going to be talking about the flood that I witnessed and I experienced and I was in, obviously. This flood that many of you know happened over the north of England over the Christmas period. A lot of people suffered tremendously, had their worlds turned upside down to the disaster, and it affected so many people, and my deepest sympathies for everybody that it did affect and is concerned. But what I want to talk about is my experience and what I would hope that this video would do, and it is to encourage other people to do what us preppers do, if that makes sense. I got a phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning from the Environment Agency to say there was a flood that was imminent. I live in the North Lancashire area. So at 7 o'clock in the morning on Boxing Day, full bellies on from Christmas Day, a lot of our family, well most of the family except for me, were asleep. I got up about 5:30, 6, again because it was my body clock, and it was my turn to cook on Boxing Day. But that's another story. But yeah, so it was that time. But I woke up the wife. I left the kids in bed because it wasn't a major concern. I woke up the wife, checked the river, see how high it was at that time, and at that time it was probably about 3 foot from the top. So there was no tremendous worry at the time, but I knew how quick a flood could happen. So I woke up the missus, and she did tremendous work. She was amazing. She's not a full-time prepper like me. I persuaded her to prep, so she done tremendously. She brought everything upstairs. She sort of asked me questions and listened to me, and she followed through. So she was a star on that day. While she was doing that, I was filling up the sandbags in the back in tremendous amount of rain, and I was soaking wet, but obviously we knew it needed to be done. I filled up my sandbags. I usually have sand or soil in the back, whether it's through gardening or stuff like that, so I filled them up to the top. If I had to go outside and fill them up soil from elsewhere, I would have done, but thankfully I didn't. But over the period of that day, the river did rise. Thankfully it didn't flood our house. There were houses around here that it was flooded. Some of the water actually did enter. Not too sure how high. Some actually touched the steps. So some got away with it, some didn't. But if I didn't have those preps there, and if I wasn't prepared, if it was worse, then our house would have been underwater. Now, for me, what I'm trying to put out is that preparing for smaller disasters, to me, can be just as important as preparing for bigger disasters, even more important. Pure reason, smaller disasters like flooding, blackouts, etc., will happen on one occasion per year. A major disaster, you know, you're talking a 1 in a million chance, maybe a bit more obviously, but a flood, a blackout can happen. I urge that anybody that doesn't prep to take notice what happened, you know, not just this year but last year and the years before that. It has flooded, and snowstorms that caused the country to stand still, things like this, to take heed, to realise that we cannot depend on the government or the emergency services to come to our aid. When any disaster happens, 24 hours later they appear. By then it's too late. They've called upon their Cobra squad to discuss, you know, what to do and so forth, etc. When this should have been done, you know, day before or 2 days before, and to implement it before it happens. So we cannot depend on what they do and what they provide for us in an emergency. If we had something in place before, i.e. for a flood, let's work on a flood, if we had the sandbags there, if we had some food to store it, heating and electric, in case the gas and the blackouts were to happen during this flood. And it did happen in Rochdale. The substation went out, so many people weren't able to cook food or have heating or to have electricity in the house. So it did happen. But if we had sandbags and means for food, water, heating, all in this tiny box, and it doesn't have to be a mammoth box, it don't have to be a really gigantic box. You're talking about a normal toy box, probably, I don't know, 3 foot by 2, or 4 by 2, or something like, something tiny, and putting something in there in place, so that if something happens, by monitoring the situation, you'll have everything in place to prepare. So that if the emergency services do come 24 hours later, and you say to them, that's fine, I've sandbagged up, I'm prepared, I might need more extra sandbags, but that's fine, I'm prepared, I'm ready to go. You can even go with them or stay, but what they will do, and then they'll probably stroll down and hit their boat, a few hundreds down the line, and help the elderly and help the vulnerable, the people that really do suffer the most from these situations. Not saying people like us don't, we do, but we have the opportunity to have something in place to help. And that's to say that once we've prepared, or while we're preparing to go and help those vulnerable people and people that are the elderly, so that we can give them their skills, our skills that we have to them. So this video was just to say that I urge everybody to prep, non-preppers. I urge preppers to not so much share what you've got. I mean, I know there's a secret, well, prepping is, which is completely understandable. There's a lot of people out there that really criticise us, but to share your knowledge and to spread the news of prepping, because it's one of the most important skills and tools that I think the humans need, especially in this day and age. I mean, our ancestors had it during the war, way before then as well. So it's just a lost art, like bushcraft was, many years ago. Millions and millions of people knew what bushcraft was and practiced it. Now there's only a few. So it's just a lost art, and we need to bring it back, and we need to help, and we need to get non-preppers to prep, because it's the most important thing in the world. So that is enough for me talking about the flood. I wanted to share it because I felt it was important to just to help people to understand the disasters out there and what can happen on a regular basis. And the most important thing from this video is to always monitor the situation and to always be prepared, because the government and the emergency services won't arrive on time. It's a fact. It's proven year after year. But obviously that's me going into a rant about the emergency service and the government. But before I go, just to make everybody aware, it is not to strike at the emergency services or the government, emergency services in particular, because they do a fantastic job. The work they do and the money they get paid, they're fantastic. I cannot fault them. I cannot fault the military that helped out. I cannot fault anybody. They do a tremendous job for the pay that they get. But things need to change where we would want it to happen before. Preemptive, I think that's the best word. A preemptive plan, so that if something happens, we're there. Do you know what I mean? So until we speak again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment below. If you were flooded, leave your experiences below. If you have any help for non-preppers that are out there, there's a big community now of preppers. Please share your knowledge. By all means, use this video as a source and put all the comments below as well, So until I see you again, please like and subscribe. This is Camoprepper out.